Yay!
Amazing. I'm so happy. Hello.
I was like, this is never gonna happen.
I know
Um,
anytime somebody's like, I gotta do a
can we
plug-in, I'm
stop
like,
this?
oh man, here we go. That's interesting. That's good to know, though, because I'm going to try to do these on here as much as possible, just because Google loves themselves. Um, so I'm so excited. Thank you so much for doing this, and very very happy to have you, and letting anyone know who happens to see or read anything about this that this is our first time. So welcome. How would you like to be identified?
Um, do you mean addiction-wise or just my name?
Just your name. Whatever is
Okay.
comfortable for you.
Oh, Jamila's good.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank
Um,
you.
so the first thing I just want to ask is, how long have you been in recovery?
A year and 9 months.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you tell us what sort of the bullet points of what led to your low point, just so other people can maybe get a sense of your basic story? And then I want to spend most of the time on recovery and how great that's been for you.
At first, I don't know that I would say recovery has been all that great. It's
Oh,
difficult
okay.
living with opportunity.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Um, so the bullet points of it, what brought me into recovery. My main low point, I was at a workshop in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and I had been searching for different things um, that I thought would make my life better, that would make me whole, that would fill the there was this huge hole, this sense that um, there's something missing in my life. And I thought it'd be career, or it'd be my friends, or it'd be relationships. Um, and so I was taking a career workshop in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and um, was walking back to the hotel from the workshop, and this huge I had felt darkness before, but it was never, ever like this. I just felt like I was going to be swallowed up at any moment. And even though I was walking in San Francisco amongst, thousands of people, I just felt completely separated and disconnected from anyone. And I made outreach calls to friends, and people were busy, and someone I knew lived not that far, and they were like, "I'm too sick," and I was like, I am here from Los Angeles. What do you mean you are too sick? I'm like 30 minutes from you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just the more that I reached out, and the more I wasn't able to connect with someone, the larger the sense of separation and the darkness became. And I called. I called for dinner, and I called this Chinese place, and it was three. I got three entrees, two appetizers, a dessert, um, and a drink, and that was even with the preparation. I brought food with me so that I would not binge.
Mm-hmm.
I brought trail mix. I had apples. I had everything that I supposedly needed so that I would not give in to binging. And
So leading up to this, obviously you knew you had episodes where the binging was happening, and this just happened to be the culmination of all of that.
yeah, but yes, and those those same feelings that led to that were all of the ones that were throughout my eating career. And some of what what happened for me in dealing with food was that I had friends, and we'd all get together and we'd eat, and so
Yeah.
there wasn't anything odd to me about having a binge or having a bunch of food around,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just how I socialize.
Yep. Yep.
And then it went from that to me doing it all by myself. So instead of it being part of like friends and celebration, it was me what I call having a picnic all by myself.
Mm-hmm. How far back can you remember all that sort of starting?
Um, so I started. See, I'm 42 now, so 12 years ago. 12 years ago. The dealing with food. Um, I've what I feel like is that there are different parts of my behavior
Mm-hmm.
or things that I've experienced over the years that led into this.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I, because I'm a survivor of sexual assault and also domestic violence, and then I am the child that was the one that took care of like the family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my mother was getting her bachelor's and her master's, then I'm in the house helping take care of things.
Mm-hmm.
So having to have things that are controlled and also not being able to really to speak up for my needs and
Mm-hmm.
continuously compromising them away. That I think, along with like the sexual assault, um, were kind of like the perfect things to create my specific type of addiction.
So
Um,
you had like a
and
twofold thing where binging was like a celebration of connection and hanging out with friends and all that stuff, and then also on the opposite end, when you were sort of isolated and alone and felt that dark space coming on, you would use that as some sort of attempt at a connection. That's what I'm hearing.
yeah, it's both attempts at a connection and it's this sense of containment and
Mm-hmm.
security. So when things got too big, then I could eat and stuff everything down, and I could then move on with whatever it is I had to take care of because my idea of being a responsible person
Mm-hmm.
was to continue to show up. So like I couldn't have given into alcohol or to drugs or anything like that because I wouldn't then be able to be responsible. I couldn't show up
Oh,
for
interesting.
family or relationships.
That's
Food,
interesting.
though, allowed me to still be there.
Will you talk about this? I didn't even plan this question, but I just wrote an article on the link between binge eating and shame. And that's sort of just an open ended statement more than anything. What, how does that work for you? Like, how did shame come into play for you on that? Or did it?
Um, hmm. But I feel like there's different layers to it. So so with binge eating, there's also um, because I don't have the extra like there. What's going through my head is that some of um, some people I know have binge eating, but they also have like exercise bulimia, so they don't look like they have something to do with food.
Interesting.
But you can see on my body that I have I have I was going to say an unhealthy relationship with food, but I don't know that necessarily anybody with my body type has that. But for me, because I feel like I walk around with it.
Okay.
And so there is the level of shame for eating when I know that it's not healthy.
Okay.
The food that I eat, the amount of food that I eat, I know that it's not healthy. And one of the things that I kind of pride myself on is being an intelligent person.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how could someone who values intelligence and also values um, my sense of, well, I was going to say self righteousness, which is probably what it is in the world. Meaning, if you
I'm familiar with it.
if you know if you know better, then you do better.
Right.
But I'm having picnics for one. I apparently am not doing better, even though I know better. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that sense of shame as well. And then how I eat the food, like the things like having taken food out of the trash. Like, do you really want people to know that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who I would never, um, in the past, I would never in a million years have wanted to say that out loud, but that is the behavior that I engaged in.
Sure.
Um, so there's that kind of shame.
Okay. And I took us off of you had ordered all the Chinese food, and we were sort of getting to like the turning point. So you were at the college fair. Nobody was there. Nobody was. You were putting your outreach calls. Nobody was coming to. So you ordered all this food, and then what was the sort of the light bulb moment for you?
Um, it wasn't even anything brilliant. I was just sitting there amongst my Chinese feast and feeling not feeling any better, and looking at it and thinking, um, this this isn't working. Like I don't feel um, any more secure in the world anymore. I don't
Hmm.
feel any more connected than I did. Um, and then how often? And this was going through my head, like how many more times can you do something like this?
Right.
This isn't the view that this isn't the vision that you had for your life. Do you want to keep do you want to keep down the same path? Because it's just not working. So I threw out all the food. I came back to Los Angeles after the workshop was over, and called a therapist. I looked up online uh, therapists who dealt with food issues, body image, and childhood trauma. And it was purely God that she was also an addiction specialist, which I didn't know before I showed up there.
Hmm.
And after having been with her for a couple of months, she was like, "You probably should look into OA." And
Interesting.
that started my journey in 12 steps.
There's a lot of controversy online about people going, "Oh, food's not an addiction. You can't be addicted to food." What's your obviously you have a counterpoint to that, but what would you say to those people? Because I for sure believe that it is that you can't be addicted to food.
Hmm.
What would you say about
Yeah,
that? Just yes.
you know what? I was gonna say I don't have a huge dissertation about it. It was like, yes, you
Yeah,
can.
I agree.
Um, it's
To me, the sort of the commonality for me of all addictions are when it starts to interfere in your life in such a way that you can't get regular things done. To me, that's what an addiction is. When you have to do something else at the cost of people, places, and things
yeah.
that you know are good for you. So anyway, that's interesting. What would you say is the number one thing that keeps you on track and keeps you in recovery today? Like, what are some things that you could share with people that, just trying to think of even an example. Is it taking care of self-care? Do you have different behaviors that you make a point of doing instead of that? How does it work for you?
Um, it's it's an everyday it's an everyday thing,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's an everyday breathing, connecting to a higher power, and it was a journey for me to connect to a higher power. I've had a struggle with that. Both of my parents passed from cancer, and I specifically remember when my mom passed in 2002, um, just raging and being angry, thinking, and then thinking, um, now when I'm dealing with food, like, why would I ask or connect to a higher power when they didn't deal with my mom? And I had a whole like I did all of the praying. I put up she's of the Christian faith, so I put up all of the scriptures that had to do with healing and faith. And so I was just like, there's no point in having relationships if in life or death situations that he or she does not pay attention.
Hmm.
Why would why would that happen in my life in dealing with food? And so the beginning of um, people has been um, reconnecting to a something that's myself, and that has been uh, I think that's been the big thing.
Okay. What is the best
And
thing
it's a
about? Oh,
yeah.
sorry, did I interrupt you? I thought
Well,
I interrupted
I
you.
was just thinking there's so many. That's because that thought was like, yeah, that's good about the higher power. And I thought there are other things that have helped. It's a completely different view of myself in the world,
How
which
so? Can you give a specific example?
yeah. So I used to think that one, I used to think I was responsible for other people and continuously compromising myself away. And so I would eat down the things that I really want,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that I wouldn't get them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And now what I do, like for example, I've always believed in myself as being a storyteller because I believe that through story we can make connection with people. Um, and so I am actively working towards that now.
That's what we're
And
doing right now.
thank you. Yes. So it's stuff like that, actually standing up um, in the things that I say that I believe in and say that I want for myself. Because with food, I couldn't have it. I couldn't do that because I wasn't connected to me and I wasn't connected to people around me really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think like that is concretely the way, like standing up. What is it that I've said that I want, and stand up in it,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether or not I am afraid. And I do get afraid quite often. Like there are moments when I feel like there's a layer of skin off of my body,
Mm-hmm.
and I am about to um, like melt into a puddle of tears and fear.
Yep.
But by if I believe that abstinence and showing up is a value, then I have to do it, regardless of whether or not I am afraid.
Can you explain what abstinence means to you? What context you're using that for somebody that might not understand that?
Oh, yeah. So abstinence is whatever. So my specific addiction with food is binging. Well, and I was thinking about this today in meeting that it's probably binging and restricting. So I've gone through periods of eating huge amounts of food, and then because I know that that's not right, I decide to eat less. So
Yeah.
it would be like 800 or 900 calories worth of food, as if that's better.
Mm-hmm.
But so abstinence for me means that there's no binging. And
Okay.
then I have a food plan, which is 3 meals a day and two snacks, and that's it.
Okay. What would you say is the best thing about being in recovery for yourself?
Connection. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Um, I would say connection and discovery. So it's connection um, to myself and not the person that I thought I needed to be. To not the person that I thought that I needed to be. Like I really felt like I couldn't make mistakes. That again that I had to compromise or be much smaller um, than I really wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
So in recovery, being able to laugh as loud as I want, like really enjoy um, and enjoy my relationship, like that has been really big for me. And then stepping into the things that yeah, the things that I really want to do, like the storytelling, or like um, I have two things that I do on the weekend that help in self recovery, and it's called uh, Soul Saturday and Serenity Sunday, and I just take time for myself. And I used to feel like that was selfish,
I
and
love that.
it's I feel like it's not. One, it um, keeps me connected, and keeps the food away. It also allows me to more of myself for other people.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is it's we've been programmed sometimes to feel like taking time for yourself is selfish, but if you don't do that, you can't be there for other people when they need you to be there or when you want to be there for them. So it's a balance, and I love the what do you call it, Soul
Yeah.
Saturday and Serenity Sunday. I love that.
Yep.
I love that. Can you
Yeah.
talk about anything? Because I think this is sometimes overlooked when people get into this. The impact of your recovery and
Mhm.
your change of life on family and friends.
Um,
Has it strengthened
I think
relationships? Has it?
I feel like I feel like it has to.
Yeah.
Just because in recovery they talk about um, a lot about honesty. So we have like so the 10th step, which is the step I'm on right now, and so every night looking at what my behavior has been throughout the day, and then if there is there something for which I need to make an amends or make an apology, and so it allows me to consistently remember that my behavior has an effect on the people around me.
Hmm.
And um, so being in recovery, I think, allows me to be aware of who I'm being with people. And like I have two nephews and a niece, and then I have a sister that I'm really really close to. And so with the idea of honesty and continuing to look at my behavior, I get to be more open and honest with them about who I am, and for the younger people to remind them that it is okay to feel whatever it is that they're feeling, and that they need to be honest about where they are in life and with what they're feeling or going through. That they don't need to be anything other than what they are, and
Hmm.
that has been a real gift of program and
That's
being able
nice.
to hear what it is that they're saying or going through. But I think that's it. And then also, which is huge for me, judgment. Judgment. I keep my mouth shut a lot
Oh
more.
yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. Yeah. Is there? Let's see. What would you say? All these questions are a little similar. What is the thing you're most grateful for now that you have recovery?
Um, the first thing that came to mind was that I don't have the darkness anymore.
That's huge.
I think, yeah, yeah. It, there, there's oh, I've forgotten her name, but it was like the light side of the dark side of the light chasers, I think is the name of the book.
Okay.
And I read it years and years ago. Um, and it's really about being able to integrate the dark parts of yourself. Because if you're not able to really face it and look at it,
Hmm.
and I don't, for me, I don't know that I would have been able to become whole. Like I
Hmm.
think it was Young that talked about being whole versus being nice.
Hmm.
I'm no longer looking to just be nice. I'd like to be whole as well.
I love that. I love that. I've actually never heard that distinction, but it makes perfect sense. The distinction between being whole versus being nice. I love that. Let's see, is there any sort of driving statement, or doesn't have to be one of the 12-step slogans, but is there any sort of thing that you tell yourself that helps you stay on track? I'm basically looking for anything for people that don't have as much recovery as you or people that are looking for recovery. Is there any sort of mantra that, you know, not even that you have to say or meditate on, but just something that you think about in your day? I mean, for me, as cliche as it is, it's I break it down from one day at a time to one moment at a time, and what is happening right now that I need to handle. What is happening right now? Stop freaking out about what might happen. Most likely won't happen, but what do you need to handle right now? I mean, that's mine. I don't know if you have one. Yeah.
I was just talking to a friend about the fact that I love plans. I well, so to make money, I work as a project manager, which means I have a plan for it. I have project gates. I know when things need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if people would just follow my plan, then things would be so much better. But I can't control because the plan we usually put together it'll end in like probably like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, people, if we hit each one of these, then we know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But really, is that how life works? So I'm completely with you on these. Like I can't control what happens in 3 months, but right now, what is it that I have to deal with? So there's that, but then there's what was it? So there's a woman. Hold on, I'm looking at my phone because I have it as my signature, and her name is Audre Lorde, and I love her. Love her.
Well, who is she?
Where are you? She is she was a queer poet and activist. And she has this wonderful, okay, so it says, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid.
Wow.
And I love it.
Wow.
And what, for me, the how that translates into recovery and into 12 steps is that there are moments when I didn't feel like I was going to make it or didn't know how I was going to make it. And so that what I was able to do, or yeah, I should say able to do, is to hold on to that little bit of I want to be here. I want to be alive. I want to have a better life, no matter how small it was. It could be like 10% of me or 20% of me, and still stand up. Mm-hmm. That is the thing I think that I still hang on to, is in the moments when I'm not sure, when I feel like I'm exposed or going to fall into the puddle. Like I stand up because no matter how afraid I am, if I am still in service of, I think, my vision and living, then I can make it through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What would you say? This is my last question, and we can just wrap it after if you want. But what would you say to somebody who was trying to figure out how to get themselves help? Like, what would you say is the best piece of advice you could give somebody that's like struggling? So struggling in the way that you were, 2 years ago.
Oh, you just.
I
was going to say you just froze. So what was the last part of?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we froze on both sides here. I was going to say, if you had one piece of advice that you were going to give that somebody may have given you that was the most impactful to somebody who's looking to get into recovery, what would that be?
The first thing that came to mind was show up, and just continue to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go into one meeting, because this is what happened to me. I went into one OA meeting, getting to there, and I went back to my therapist and told her that, and she was like, "Try 6 meetings." And because I trusted her, I went into more than one meeting, and I stuck with the meeting. It was the second meeting I went to, and I was in that meeting for like 6 months before I tried another meeting. So I say, just show up, and continue to show up, even if it's not a 12-step program, if it's therapy that works for you, if it's group that works for you, just continue to show up. Everything else is built on that.
Do the work. Do the work, and it doesn't, to me, I should say, I believe firmly that there's, 100 different ways to get to the mountaintop. So if 12 steps isn't for you, maybe it's therapy, maybe it's somebody that's gone through it that's going to mentor you. I mean, there's a lot of ways. 12 steps are amazing and have helped me. Um, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. You just have to do it. I mean, it's just a matter of doing it and being held accountable to that. You froze again. I don't know if I'm frozen.
Yeah, and it's through the fear, and it's through all the self-talk, it's all of that stuff.
Yep.
Nope, you're just nodding right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little slow. I want to ask you because I feel like people are sometimes afraid to talk about, myself included. I'll speak personally. I get so excited by and know the person, how different the person I am now compared to who I was 3 years ago and most of my life. But I feel like what sometimes people talk about who actually have recovery is sometimes the struggle of recovery. That it's not it's not like you make that decision, show up, do the work, and then all of a sudden it's easy. That's what I thought. I thought I was just going to show up. I'm going to do these 12 steps. I'll be done these next week.
Yes.
And then everything's going to be better and everything's going to be fine. And then that's just it's laughable. But what are some of the, I had my thoughts went all over the place and I didn't want to do it. And I thought, man, it was easier when I wasn't doing this and all that kind of stuff. I want people to know that recovery is possible and amazing and transformative and that it's a roller coaster, but it's a sane roller coaster so much more so than prior.
Yes.
Can you speak to that at all?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. So when I came, and I love that you said that, when I went into programs, I had no idea how it's supposed to work. So I know you have a sponsor, you do the steps, but when I came in, I was like, well, where's the book? Like, let me get the book. I will work the steps. And I just was starting to get really frustrated because I was like, look, I am here. And I went back to my therapist, and she was like, no, you get a sponsor, one, and then you do the steps. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, well, how long is this supposed to take? And I heard people talk about working the steps more than once. I was like, you are inefficient and ineffective at working your program if you've done this more than once.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of thing you're doing, and I don't want you and your recovery. So then I had to work through the fact that, maybe it's about living a life in recovery. Mm-hmm. And I was horrified by that. Yep. Because I really wanted to come in, like, maybe I would do at the most, or at like the most amount of time I would be there is a year. Because it's one step a month. Yep. So, you have to let things kind of sit with you so you can really get them. So at the most, I'll be here a year, and then I'm out.
Because my whole naivete and arrogance was, well, I whizzed through all my classes in school, so of course, and if this is my only work I have to do, of course I'm going to get an A on this and finish it before everyone else, and then I'm done. I graduated. I'm done. And it's just it's laughable now.
Mhm. Yeah. Because it's something I don't. Beforehand, I don't know that you get how much, at least for me, how it's about living life. Mhm. And now that I've gone into that, I forgot your original question.
Oh, just the piece of advice you might give someone.
So it was a show up, but you asked me, it was, the struggling program. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So there's both peace and there's struggle. It's peace and struggle because it's, there are layers. So you think, if I just deal with the food, then everything else in life is going to be fine. But like for example, today I was sharing a meeting about the anger that comes up. Who knew that I had so much anger in there? Like I knew that things annoyed me,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like there's a well of anger
Yep.
that is in there, and you have to learn how to deal with that abstinently. I can't go to food to mask it. That again is against my value. So
Yeah.
if I'm staying in line, if my behavior is staying in line with that, then I have to be willing to be uncomfortable and deal with whatever it is that comes up.
Yeah.
But then there's also the wonderful moments, like I was out hiking yesterday, and there was so much fun and so much joy in it. I started walking, and apparently the glue from the bottom of my boot had dried, and the sole literally came off. And I just, like before, I would have been so angry and dejected, but I started cracking up. I was like, how the shoes fall apart? And they were fine when I left the house. How does this happen? They were
Yeah.
like clown shoes.
Yeah.
And so I just get back in the car, go home. Like my housemate had another pair, and then we went back to hiking.
It's may even sound silly to some people without recovery, but it's those little moments. I mean, I so get that where it's just something that small, quote unquote, that would have sent you over the edge before is now literally something that you were laughing about. And to me, that's the miracle of recovery to me. When there are things
Yeah.
that I experience on a daily basis where I think I have the conscious thought, if this exact scenario happened 3 years ago, I would have lost my mind. I would have either gone off on that person or I would have gone on some tear, whatever. I just wouldn't have handled it well. And to know, take a breath, look at it for what it is, laugh at it because it's out of your control, and you can handle it in a much more constructive way. That's to me, I think that's a miracle.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that as well. Again, and I would also go with that there are moments that I still, yeah, there are moments when I still have an obsessive mind about things,
Yeah.
an addictive mind, and since I'm dealing specifically with food, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it's less and less.
Yes.
Like this idea of being able to actually focus and not have this kind of hamster wheel
Yeah.
going on, it's such a relief. It's such a relief.
I couldn't agree more. I thought about it yesterday. I sat down to do some work in a normal situation where years ago when I was acting like a crazy person, and I just thought, wow, this one thing, I would have never been able to focus the rest of the day. I'd be off some crazy tangent doing something that wasn't good for me. And I was literally able to watch my thoughts start to go down that road, recognize it, and then steer them back, and actually had an incredibly productive day. Those are miracles to me. Those are miracles that I'm so grateful for.
Yeah.
Is there anything? This has been amazing. I'm super grateful.
I was so nervous about it. Like my stomach was hurting.
Look, it's this brave stuff. I mean, we're talking about stuff that people are uncomfortable talking about, but to me, it's so important. I shared my story at a storytelling show over a year ago. This is incredible to me. I'm floating on this. Over a year ago, I'm sure he said something to me after the show. I must have given him my cell number because if people approach me, and I'd give it to him. I got a call at 9 o'clock this morning, Sunday morning, unidentified number. I had no idea who it was. And he said, I just want you to know I was at the Taboo Tales show over a year ago, heard your story, and it got me to take care of my stuff. And he's been 1 month in recovery now. That to me, that's the power of story. And that's what we want to share. And you don't know who could read this transcript from this interview or see this video or hear the audio, and 2 years from now they're like, I remember what she said about laughing about the boot falling apart. You just don't know, and I think it's so important that we share these stories, because the fact of the matter is everybody's struggling on something at some level. It just may not be the exact same thing as you. So people
Yeah.
connect through shared experience, and it's not always positive experience. So I'm so grateful that you did this for us, and I'm sure we'll have you back again.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me. It helps me as well. I continue to like, and I was about to cuss right there because I wasn't sure about the audience. So
Neither are
it
we.
helps me. It helps me get over myself and
Yeah.
just show up.
And not take yourself so seriously all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, darling. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this call, and then we can connect offline here.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks you too.
Serenity Sunday, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.